Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Jamal Pope, aka J Phoenix, and in this video, we're going to be talking about the new moon in Gemini that we're going to be having this weekend. It's going to be happening very late Sunday evening, at least here on the West Coast, pretty much around 11:11. So that's pretty interesting that's actually happening right there. But yes, this will be happening Sunday, June 14th, around 11:11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So, of course, if you're on the West Coast, it's going to be happening at 7:11. And we're going to be having this energy going into next week. But let's go ahead and hop into it. Let's talk a little bit about this before we actually get into the charts, shall we? Well, this is Gemini season, of course. We're at the tail end of Gemini, so happy birthday to all of the Geminis out there. If I haven't already wished you a happy birthday. And it's definitely been an interesting season, that's for sure. You know, Gemini is very curious, wants to get to know things. It's very sociable, very curious, wants to learn things, wants to communicate. And this new moon in Gemini is going to give us the opportunity to do just that. To expand past our current sphere of influence, to broaden our horizons, but this is going to require us to actually get outside of our comfort zone, and it's a little bit difficult right now because of a lot of the energy that we have that's going on, right? So this new moon is going to be happening at 24 degrees of Gemini, right? So only 6 days remaining in Gemini season before we get into Cancer season. Of course, in Cancer, we do actually have the ruler of Gemini, Mercury, here with Jupiter, and we'll have Venus for a very short amount of time. Venus is actually going to be shifting into Leo here in really the next few hours. I'm making this on Friday evening. Venus will be in Leo by this evening, around like 11-ish o'clock, something like that tonight. So you're going to be waking up into your weekend with this new Venus and Leo energy, which is positive. It's going to bring a lot of positive energy. But at the same time, we are still dealing with this Mars that is debilitated. It's not feeling good in Taurus, right? It's very sluggish. It kind of can feel like some of the actions that we're taking right now aren't really leading to anything. It's a very much so a slow grind. And of course, we have Chiron here in the Aries home sign of Aries, and it's at 29 degrees, very critical degree, very sensitive, very intense. And Chiron is already a rather intense energy that we have to deal with. So we have this clash between wanting to feel validated, wanting to feel safe, wanting to feel secure, but also at the same time, our souls are begging us to broaden our horizons, see what is new, smell the roses, go to new places, meet new people. And this is more so in the local sense. There's this, it's interesting too because we don't have any Sagittarius energy, right? So it's not really necessarily about going to far away places, maybe more locally, you know, traveling around your home state, or maybe traveling a few states over, or I guess if you're in Europe, maybe just going to the next country over and stuff like that. And this is not really about going super far away. And it's kind of interesting too because we have the World Cup that's happening right now, and it's happening here in the States as well as Mexico and Canada, which are our next door neighbors here, of course, and Gemini does rule the neighbors, so it rules siblings. So there's this opportunity for us to actually get to know our neighbor a little bit better, and that's actually a positive thing. It's something that I think that's very much so needed. We are so focused on, you know, things that are happening so far away from us, and it's not that these things aren't important, but I think sometimes we forget about the locality. We forget about what's happening right in our own backyards. This new moon is going to be calling us to focus a little bit more on what is in our backyards. And Gemini season does that anyways, but it's also is encouraging us to actually kind of get out of the house and to kind of, you know, go out there, be with the people, be in the world. Don't always be on the internet. Don't always be scrolling on your phone. And we all get caught up doing it from time to time. I know that I am guilty of it. You know, it's like I consider myself kind of an ambivert anyways, right? It's like I do enjoy going out and being with people and socializing and stuff like that. Like I had an opportunity to go to karaoke last night, but I just didn't feel like going, to be fair. And it's funny, even times where I don't feel like going and I go to karaoke, I always enjoy myself. I always have a great time. But sometimes I just don't feel like it. Sometimes I would just prefer to just sit at home and watch anime and play video games or do some writing. I've been doing a lot more writing lately, which is also a good thing about Gemini season. That can kind of help get your creative juices flowing as well when it comes to anything like writing, or whether you're writing poetry, or in my case, I'm writing a novel, or writing music, or even journaling. It's great for that sort of energy too. But, we all get caught up from time to time, just doom scrolling, just always wanting to be cooped up, not wanting to go out into the world. And of course, what's been happening over the past 6 years with COVID and everything like that, it makes sense, right? A lot of people are almost just very, very shy and too timid and don't want to go out. They're anxious, or maybe they're depressed, as well. That could be another thing that's coming up here. But this is about, how can we get outside our comfort zone? And actually, this is kind of like the true start to the summer. I feel like with this Venus coming into Leo, we're kind of getting, and Leo, of course, is that second month of the summer, technically. And we're about to get into Cancer season. So summer is officially about to begin. Of course, if you're in the southern hemisphere, that's going to be your winter. But the seasons are shifting, the tides are shifting, and we need to shift our energy with those tides as well. So when you go from winter, you're cooped up, you're trying to keep the warmth that way. You don't really feel like going out, and then spring, people start to kind of come out of their holes and out of their caves and everything like that, and start to kind of see the new world and how beautiful things are. And then summer, you enjoy it. You go out, you socialize, you have fun, you go to the beach, you go on your vacations and stuff. So this is about how can we, kind of further that energy, how we can really expand in that way, while at the same time, yes, acknowledging, that sometimes we just aren't feeling super secure, maybe who we are, maybe we're not feeling super secure in the value that we bring to the world, and constantly are looking for external affirmation instead of going within ourselves. And I think that's really the key here, is how can we go within ourselves and validate ourselves without the need for the external validation. And humans, we're social creatures, right? And Gemini is a very social sign. We thrive off of the interaction with other people, and we want to be accepted. We want to be loved. We want to be well liked. But there's still an element of personal accountability. There's still an element of having integrity. If you've been watching me for a while, I've been speaking on spiritual integrity and spiritual responsibility for quite a while now. And it's a practice. It's something that you have to work on every single day. It's not just a one-day thing. It's not just a one-off thing. I definitely have days where I feel just on top of the world, cloud nine, and I feel like I did everything right that day. And there are other days where it's like I might get one thing done on my list, and I'm okay with that. Or really, I beat myself up over it. And that's usually what we do. I think it's also about celebrating the small victories. You know what I'm saying? Gemini, it's like it is about celebrating those small victories. Finding something that we can, maybe become a little bit more, you know, consistent in. That's the word I'm looking for. Establishing healthier habits, establishing positive habits, and celebrate those small victories. And this is kind of like the nice thing about, like I said, going out, being with friends, being with family, and stuff like that. And just be like, yo, I got this task done today. I got this project done today. I did this sort of thing. And it's not about winning the lottery. It's not about doing the big, massive thing. It's about celebrating the small victories. And sometimes, for some people, depending upon where you are in life, sometimes that victory is you didn't cry today. Just being real. Maybe you didn't cry today. You got out of bed. You finally folded all the laundry that's been piling up and stuff like that. You cleaned your house. It's these sort of things, and there's nothing wrong with celebrating those small victories. There's nothing wrong with giving yourself a little gift here, here and there. There's nothing wrong with doing that, and I think that's something that we have to get back to. And also celebrating other people's small victories, and fostering that sense of camaraderie and fellowship with other people. I think it's going to be really important for this new moon. It's going to give us an opportunity to start doing that, especially going forward, because next week we have some shifting energies. We're going to see Venus, like I said, shifting into Leo soon, and we're going to have Chiron shifting into Taurus soon. So a lot of things are going to be shifting really quickly, really fast, and these energies are going to want us to be out and do more. Ironically, when the sun's going into Cancer, a lot more people are going to be more focused on the home and the sanctuary, but there's still this element of like, get out of your comfort zone, go out, do things, see people, have fun, kind of get lost in the energy a little bit, get wrapped up in the energy a little bit. Don't be so conservative. Don't be so in your bubble. Don't be so stiff, right? Try and you know, with especially with Venus going into Leo, this is going to hopefully help us to kind of melt away some of those icy walls and boundaries that we have put up, because and those boundaries might have been put up for good reason, you know, to as a protective mechanism for ourselves. We're trying to protect ourselves maybe because we might have had a bad experience or a traumatizing experience, but you know, we can't stay in that place forever. We got to be able to come out of that shell. So let's go ahead and take a look at it. So we do have, like I said, this moon here at 24 degrees of Gemini. 2 plus 4 is 6, and 6 is the number of Venus, right? And numerology. And where's Venus going to be for this new moon? It's going to be in Leo right here at the beginning, right? Venus in Leo, hot girl summer, right? That's why I call Venus. That's what I call Venus in Leo. We also need to look at the dispositor of this new moon in Gemini, Mercury, of course, right? Mercury is here at 18 degrees of Cancer, and it's getting ever so closer to this massive conjunction with Jupiter. And it's interesting too because Jupiter hasn't really gotten a lot of attention over the last several months. It's just now starting to get some attention with Venus conjuncting it. Now Mercury's about to conjunct it. Jupiter hasn't really been getting a ton of stuff. Not really. I mean, you got the squaring energy when the sun squared it, when the sun was back here in Aries, we had that, or when Mars squared it, when Chiron squared it. So we had some, but for the most part, Jupiter, the planet of expansion and stuff like that, it hasn't really gotten a ton, right? And it's in here in Cancer. So Jupiter right now, and what we're doing with Jupiter is people are trying to maximize on their comfort levels. They're trying to maximize on their safety and their security. That's what they're trying to do. And the moment that that gets threatened, we kind of get thrown into a tizzy, right? We definitely get thrown off. Not only that, but because Jupiter's been in Cancer this whole time, the dispositing energy of this Jupiter has been the moon. And the moon is the fastest moving energy. So think about that. It hasn't been very stable, this Jupiter in Cancer. Even though Jupiter likes being in Cancer, it hasn't been that stable because the moon is moving so fast. This is why things are shifting and moving, and things are expanding and contracting, expanding and contracting, expanding and contracting, because everyone likes to say, oh, Jupiter's about expansion, but it's also about contraction, especially when it goes into retrograde. So emotions have been up and down. It's like a roller coaster, right? It's been tough. It's like the way that you can expand emotionally is in many ways dependent upon where the moon is at that time and maybe what house it's in and how best you can ride this ride called life. I think that's kind of the interesting thing about Jupiter, because Jupiter is all about the adventure. And I think part of the reason why it likes to be in Cancer is because it's never boring. Because Cancer is ruled by the moon, which is constantly moving, and it's moving at such a rapid pace, moving to a new sign every 2.5 days or so. It's an adventure and it's exciting, but oftentimes we will confuse that journey and that excitement. Like, our spirit loves it, but our human ego hates it because it's not consistent, it's not stable, and it's quite frankly unpredictable. And that's the interesting thing about it. It's Jupiter in Cancer is actually very unpredictable. You wouldn't think so because it likes to be there, but it's actually very unpredictable. And now that Mercury, the ruler of the mind and communication, is getting ready to hit this spot, trying to make sense of the unpredictability and roller coaster of this thing we call life, it's going to be very much so a challenge. Very much so a challenge it's going to be. I want to just show you the essential dignities too, because like leading up to, like, after this new moon, once the moon comes off of the sun and goes into Cancer, you're going to see literally Mercury shift in power so rapidly fast. And it just, I feel like, illustrates kind of like how the highs and lows of life can be, but how our mind can maybe take us into these different realms and into these different rabbit holes, and it can be so up and down. But like I said, it's like Mercury is the second fastest moving energy too, so that can change as well. Our emotions change faster, but even our thoughts still will come and go. We have I don't know how many thoughts we have a day. It's like some ridiculous number of thoughts that we have every single day. I think sometimes we want to just hold on and grasp on to certain thoughts and then they're just running in our head. But those are also meant to be let go. So if we can learn how to let go, then this will help to reduce our anxiety, help to reduce our depression, our apprehension, our shyness, our fear of living life to the fullest. I want to show you guys these essential dignities because when I saw them, I was like, holy crap. That was like wild to me. So as you can see here, we have, right here, this is June 14th, Sunday, like I said, around 11:11 is when this new moon is happening, right? And you see that Mercury is actually the strongest planet right now with a plus 11. Jupiter's at plus 2, the moon's at plus 8. Mars is at a horrendous negative 10. This is why it feels like things are sluggish. This is why it feels like some of the times the actions that you're taking aren't producing results. But this is about the grind. Mars in Taurus is the grind. You're not going to get the immediate result. You got to grind it out. This is seriously like, I'm thinking like a sporting game. We have FIFA, the World Cup is going on right now, so I'm going to just use that. Just watching some of these games, there'll be time that goes on 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 minutes, and you have to grind this match out. You're not going to score the goal immediately. You have to, and it's like you can't just, like how I play FIFA, like video game wise, you can't do that in real life. You can get away with it playing on a video game because what I do is I am high press, balls to the wall, constantly trying to depossess the opponent, and I'm sprinting a lot to the point where my players lose stamina pretty quickly. But fortunately, I have a deep enough bench, so it's okay. But it's like, you can't really play like that in real life. At the end of every single one of my matches, I look at the match facts, and I always have less passes than my opponent. Every single time. But in real life, you got to pass the ball. You can't just rely on yourself. And you have to grind it out. You have to find your opening. You have to create your opening. You can't just go balls to the wall with this thing and just try and, just force the issue, throwing paint on the wall and expecting a masterpiece. No, you got to grind this thing out. And that's what Mars and Taurus is teaching us. The things that are really worthwhile, worth, Taurus, value, are a bit of a grind. And it's tough. You're not going to have those immediate results. So we have that energy in the background, right? Of also wanting things to feel comfortable. But then, like I said, this Jupiter in Cancer, it's not very stable as well because we're trying to maximize on our comfort level with Cancer and our feelings and our emotions and feeling good. But the moon moves so fast, we can't really find that solid foundation. It's harder to find it, right? And now that Mercury has been here for a little bit and it's being influenced by the moon, our mind is doing the same thing. So it's like, that's why people's mind, like, it seems like people can change their mind on a dime. This is why, like, sometimes when it comes to the thoughts too, because like, think about Mercury and water, try to speak underwater. You can't. You can't hear, you can probably hear someone screams, but the way that the sound moves through the water, it's like, if me and you were to like go under the water, right, in the pool, and I try to speak to you, you probably can't understand what I'm saying, right? So that's kind of what's happening with this Mercury in Cancer too. It happens even more with Mercury in Pisces because it does not like to be there at all. But it kind of happens here in Cancer as well. But people are trying to speak on their emotions and stuff, but your emotions are changing so fast, so rapidly, and Jupiter's here. And I get it. We all want to feel good. We all want to feel better, right? But it is, in many ways, kind of hard to put things in words right now. This is why it's probably good to journal and write things out. If you don't really know how to feel right now, journal it. Journal it out. And it's only for you. You don't have to share it with anyone. You can if you want to, but it's really just for you. It's a practice of getting the ideas and the thoughts and the emotions out and put it on paper so you can actually visually see them. Manifesting those emotions onto the paper so you can actually see them. And it does something to your psychology when you can do that. It's a healing practice, if you will, right? So this is about like not keeping things in. This is about letting things out. But watch what happens to this Mercury as we go day to day. We move forward just one day and bam, It goes from plus 11 to plus 3. Now, the moon has taken over as the strongest planet, essential dignity wise, at plus 8. Just like that. And that's because Mercury was getting some influence because that moon was in Gemini, which is where Mercury rules. Right? If you move forward even another day, when the moon is going to meet up with Mercury and it's going to meet up with Jupiter, I mean, it'll meet up with Jupiter like early Wednesday morning, it goes to -5. So in just 3 days, technically 48 hours, in just 48 hours, Mercury is going to go from this high to this low, almost to where Mars is, right? And that's the interesting thing about this. This is how fast things can change. So I wouldn't be surprised over the next couple of days, like, going from Sunday to Monday to Tuesday, ironically, that people are probably going to be feeling kind of like this high, even though it's at the beginning of the week. But then the energy from mentally is going to kind of get sucked out. And I think people may even feel maybe even mentally exhausted because of this. And Mercury hasn't even reached Jupiter yet. That's the crazy thing about this. It hasn't even reached Jupiter yet. But another thing I kind of want to point out is this this Venus and this moon, because it was like leading up to it beforehand. Because like I said, I'm making this on Friday, right? So like I said, Venus is getting ready to move into this spot. Now the moon is in Taurus at the current moment, right? I mean, it's not 11 p.m., but you get the point. It's like 6:45 p.m. at the time of me making this. We got a mutual reception. Venus is happy. The moon is happy. You see that? Plus 12, plus 7, right? So Venus is happy. The moon is happy. The moon would rather be where Venus is. Venus would rather be where the moon is, even though the moon is exalted in Taurus. They are happy. We're going to feel this switch, though, right? So it's like, I think like Friday is this interesting day, too. And hopefully some of you guys watch this on Friday, or if you're not, just think back to Friday, where, we have reached a certain level of comfort, if you will, but we know that things are going to shift and we're going to have to move outside of this comfort zone, right? We also have Venus that is in square to this Chiron, which adds a whole nother element to where it's like we need to learn how to receive who we are right now. I think this Chiron in Aries is so focused on one aspect or two aspects of who we are. Chiron in Aries is about who you are, personality, even your appearance. So there's this massive focus right now on identity. But this square with this Venus and this Mars, and look what it is, +7, -10, right? So we need to not really focus on the identity so much, or an aspect of our identity so much, and overly identifying with that. We need to focus on how can we receive all of who we are. Not just one aspect or two aspects, but all of who you are. You're not just, look, you're not the money that you make. You're not just the money that you make. You're not just the house that you have, the cars you have, if you have those things. You're not just your name. You're not just your skin tone. That's a big one that's coming up right now. You're definitely not just this. If you're overly identifying with this, you're not going deep enough. You're not going deep enough. And I get it. This has caused a lot of issues for humanity since the beginning of time. I get that. But until we can get past this, we're never going to be able to go deeper. And never going to be able to really get to see just who we are and just what humanity is doing here. But you're not just these things, right? You're not your job. You're not the amount of money that you make. You're not these things. There is so much more to you than that. And Venus gets this lesson because it's already surpassed Jupiter by this point. And Venus is about the reception energy. And Jupiter in Cancer is teaching us to enjoy the thrills of life, the ups and downs, the emotional parity, if you will. There's parity to life, right? It's not just one emotion that's dominating the whole time. There's parity to this. And Venus is teaching us how to, leading up to this, is teaching us how to appreciate the wide scope and variety of things. And we don't have to just focus on how we've been hurt or our trauma. And not that those things aren't important, but how can we also take those things and teach with it? Because remember, Jupiter does rule Sagittarius, and Sagittarius is about education in many ways. How can we learn from all this as well? Or are we just going to continue to ruminate instead of actually learn from our mistakes, actually learn from our experiences? Or are we just going to keep doing the same thing and then using convenient scapegoats, convenient Chiron and Aries scapegoats as a reason to why we can't get anywhere or go further? Personal accountability, spiritual accountability. But like I said, I just think that's interesting with that mutual reception between that moon and Venus, of course, while Chiron is making that square. So, but like I said, you're going to see Mercury go from that plus 11, bam, to minus 5. Just like that. Moon's going to cross over Venus, it's still at minus 5, right? It's still there. We even get we get some nice trining energy between this moon, this Saturn, and Black Moon Lilith. It's kind of interesting. But yeah, leading up to that next square, if you will, the third quarter square, which looks like it's going to be happening pretty much in Libra. It's going to be pretty much happening at 0 degrees Libra. Ain't that crazy that on this solstice, we're going to be getting that energy? I'll move this back. Bam, look at that. See that? Talk about a solstice where we get a first quarter square at 0 Libra and yeah, like I said, 0 Cancer. Moon is at +1, Sun is at +3. Mercury actually gets a little bit of help here. It's actually at +2 now. Right? It's actually at +2. So that's kind of the interesting thing about this. By the time we get to the first quarter square, if you can get past some of the uncomfortable energy in between, you can start to see a brighter picture, a brighter future. Yeah, it may not be exactly the way that you want. You may have to get outside your comfort zone a bit, but you can start to see a bit of a brighter picture. You can start to think a little bit clearer, right? And Mercury still hasn't hit this Jupiter, but what's interesting about this as well is that Chiron, where's Chiron at? Chiron has now shifted into Taurus by this point. In fact, it shifts into Taurus, I think it's this week actually. I think it's like, oh I know, it's going by hour. Hold on, let me put that back to the 0, and then let me shift this back to days because it's going to shift. I want to say it's like Friday or Thursday. Yeah, so like Thursday evening, we're going to see that Chiron shift. Right. Now I wish they showed Chiron right here, but we're going to see that Chiron shift into Taurus. And then that's going to be the interesting thing where now people, as far as the wounding aspect, it's going to be more focused on Taurus-like stuff. So it's not going to be identity anymore. It's going to be self-worth and value. Which honestly, I'm kind of over this whole Chiron and Aries thing. I really am. I think it's going to be a much needed shift into Chiron, of Chiron into Taurus, because we definitely need that energy. Mars is not going to be alone there anymore either, so I think that's going to be interesting. But Mars is still identity, so there's still going to be an element of this energy, right? Where people tie their value to their identity. That's going to be the next thing, too. That's going to be the next big hurdle with that energy. But we are going to see, so you see all these shifts, right? Venus is coming into Leo soon. We have, or today actually, we have Chiron that's going to be shifting here soon in the next week or so. So we have like another week of this energy, right? And like I said, so we get that third quarter square right here, 0 degrees, kind of a nexus point. A lot of possibilities, 0, infinite possibilities. It's like an egg. And this is going to be a critical moment because it's going to be like, yo, like whatever you kind of, and whatever intention you're kind of putting out on this day is going to be very important. It's going to carry you throughout the whole summer. It's going to carry you throughout the entire season, especially with Venus being on the spot of 0 degrees Libra. I have to see the last time that we even got this close to where both luminaries are on critical points in astrology. One is on a solstice point and one is on an equinox point. Like, that's actually kind of blowing my mind. But it just lets me know just how powerful this next week is going to be, and how if we are very intentional about things, and it looks like Gemini is messy too. It's not perfect, and I think there's a desire to be perfect and to not make mistakes. But it's like, you got to get messy. You got to make mistakes. Take some chances. You know what I'm saying? We gotta risk being a fool too. That's what Venus and Leo is about. That's what Leo energy is about. You gotta be able to laugh. You gotta bring comedy back into your life, bring laughter back into your life, not take everything so seriously, right? That's another part about this. Is like there's such a serious energy to things right now, and I get it. Things can be intense. There's a lot of serious things that are happening, but we gotta bring the laughter back, the comedy back. You gotta have a day where you just like are literally busting a gut from how funny something is. That's healing energy. That's gonna be very good healing energy. So as we continue, we're gonna see that moon. We'll see that Mercury's pretty stable at that +2. Then it goes back down to -5 once the moon goes into Scorpio. But we're also going to see that Mercury getting ever so close to that Jupiter, and we'll end this video with that essentially, because Mercury is actually going to retrograde right before it even gets to Jupiter. So pretty much look at that. That's actually on the full moon in Virgo is the day that Mercury is going to go retrograde, right? And Mercury is going to be at -5 at that point, and Jupiter is going to be at +5. That's interesting too. So there are going to be highs and lows over this next 2 weeks. Highs and lows emotionally, mentally. You gotta learn how to ride the wave, appreciate the journey, learn to laugh, do something a little bit new, do something a little bit fresh. You know what I mean? Go somewhere different. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't have to be super far away. It can be a state over. It can be a few states over. You don't have to go super far away. You don't have to go out of the country or anything like that. But and I think the good thing too, at least here in America, is that we do have the World Cup here, so we actually have the opportunity to meet people from other countries and just to appreciate the love of a game with them. And that's what the World Cup is all about too. It's like even though everyone doesn't watch soccer or love soccer, it's does this interesting thing. Close that. Oh wait, hold on. Close. Let me minimize that. Okay, there you go. It's this interesting thing with the World Cup is that the level of like I guess camaraderie that you get from like an international level is that you just come together for the love of the game. But I guarantee you, it's like you pick any 10 people in one of these stadiums, whether they're supporting the same team or different teams, have different values, come from different walks of life, maybe have different religions, different political views, but you can come together for the love and appreciation of a sport. And that's kind of the nice thing about sports. I know like a lot of times in a lot of these spiritual circles, they like to bash on sports and shit. But I'm like, sports is about it teaches us something. Sports is Aries, right? And you can't get rid of any zodiac sign, right? Sports is Aries. It's very much so Aries, you know? And it does teach you about yourself, but also teaches you about who you are as a part of a whole as well, and how you can contribute to that whole. So it's like, yeah, I could pick 10 different people out of any crowd of people at one of these games, and they can be vastly different. And yes, I can poke and prod these people and get them to fight each other, or I can just let them enjoy the game and have fun with it. I think that's the energy that we have to get back to, and not be so serious and focusing on all of the differences, but just see what is the same. Gemini's the mirror, and appreciating those similarities. Now we can leave all the other stuff behind. It's not important. It's not important in this moment. That's the other thing too. We gotta get back into the moment. All those extra things, they're not important in this moment right here. What's important in this particular example is the love of the game. You're not going to agree with everyone, and not everyone's going to validate you. Not everyone's going to validate your beliefs. Not everyone's going to validate what you think and your emotions. Not everyone's going to validate them, right? Even some of the people that that you are the closest to aren't going to validate them in the way that you probably want them to. Only you can really do that for yourself. And that's a tough lesson to learn. And it's one that we have to constantly learn every single day. But this energy is going to give us an opportunity to kind of feel lighter, feel a little bit brighter, despite the things that may feel uncomfortable, despite the things and maybe even some of the triggers that may want us to jump back into our cave or freaking jump out of our skin. And I was thinking about the whole Carmelo Anthony thing. I don't even really want to talk about that, but it teaches us impulse control as well, right? And it's and that whole situation is unfortunate. I don't really want to talk about that right now because I have my different opinions on it. Everyone has their opinions on it. I don't think it really matters at this point. I think the one thing that matters is that it's an unfortunate situation overall for all parties and for all people involved, and it's sad to see how people are responding and reacting to it in such vitriolic ways on both sides of the aisle. And that's all I'm going to say about that. But, this is about, like I said, we got to come out of our comfort zones and learn how to have fun despite feeling a little bit uncomfortable at times and still play the game. I think Joe Rogan actually had Terry Bradshaw on the other day. I know not everyone really likes Joe Rogan, whatever like that. But even just thinking about that as well. Think about how there are a lot of athletes that will play through injuries and stuff like that. Why? Well, for the love of the game, because they don't want to let themselves down. They don't want to let the team down. And shoot, sometimes they win games. Sometimes they win championships, even though they're injured. So yeah, I think that's the thing. Some people don't want to play the game of life because they're injured and they're hurt. But I'm like, yeah, we're all injured and we're all hurt. Ain't no one 100% out here playing this game. Some of us have spiritually torn our ACL. Some of us have spiritually broken, like, our arm or our leg, right? Some of us spiritually are dealing with migraine. No one's 100%. But you still got to get in there and play the game. Don't let your past dictate whether or not you can get into the game of life and play it, right? Because I guarantee you, some of the people out here that have the biggest victories probably have the biggest wounds that they play through. And they make it happen anyways. And that should be inspiring for us all and motivating for us all. So, my cat wants to come inside. But before I get to him, I'm going to draw a card. And I'm going to get it out of here. And I hope that this message assisted you on your journey whenever you're watching this. And hope that you enjoyed this new moon and use it to your potential. I'm going to be working probably during this new moon or driving back home from work. We'll see what Monday holds for me and stuff. So, let's see what we got. Magic. Hold on. Sorry. There we go. You can kind of see it. The light's kind of bright, so it's a little bit harder. But yeah, there you go. Magic. The number is 31. The frequency of magic supports our intrinsic ability to grow and expand beyond this moment to move forward toward possibilities and expressions that are grand and profound as we can imagine. All that is required is our belief in their manifestation. Yeah, moving beyond this moment, moving beyond your current circumstances, moving beyond your current victimhood mentality, moving beyond your scars, your wounds, your conditionings, moving beyond your comfort zone is magic. That's what's out there. It's actually not that far. It's actually in here. But we have to be able to move beyond that stuff to bring this magic into reality. Magic is real. Don't let them tell you anything different. Don't let them fool you. Magic is most certainly real. I've seen it happen many times before. That's going to do it for your New Moon and Gemini video. I trust that this message will assist you on your journey, and I will see you all on the next one. Peace.